About 3 years ago, my intellectual life was quite active. I would jump out of bed every day and would pick up a fiction book and go up on the roof, sit in the tiny room that had a window with a view that showed through the entire roof of the city and its blue sky, plunge myself into classical literature or science fiction, and be lost in the world of ideas and words for hours. I would be writing my favorite phrases and words on the rustic wall of that tiny garret and sink myself into my own world of literary pursuits. In a way, I was in solitary confinement, but in my own world and at peace. No bothersome technology to destroy my attention, no bland, mind-eroding notifications to tinker with my ever-expanding mind. My brain was flourishing and I was feeling so creative. I remember we had a class in college. The professor asked some questions that I never wondered about before, but the moment I heard the question, my mind immediately enlightened me with an interesting answer that left me completely startled. It was like a light bulb that got turned on with no electricity. I remember having so many experiences like this and think that it's completely normal. I would have a great deal of ideas constantly helping me answer questions that I never encountered before. When it came to writing essays, I would write so smoothly that I'd finish the whole essay in an hour. There was this group assignment that me and my friends started to work on, and we split the writing into two parts. Half of it was for me, and the other half was for her. She started working on it a week before the deadline, but I didn't start until the night before the deadline. And even more surprising to you might be the fact that I finished it writing on my phone while on the bus going back to the university the night before we had to hand in the assignment. Writing even about random unrelated topics that I never read anything about was becoming like a walk in the park for me. I learned how to think. I learned how to dissect the question into words and take the meaning of each word and come up with a cohesive answer only by analyzing the language, which I was in the habit of doing anyway. In reality, I've been training my mind to understand the meaning of words on a deeper level by reading fiction. Perusing piles of books was finally showing its impact on my mind, but that story was the story of 2 to 3 years ago. When I finally graduated from college, I became so careful about how I spend my time. I started to think about building a business and finding financial freedom, and started listening to practical people in business. And the hustle gurus I was listening to at the time made me think that maybe my fiction reading is not that productive. Maybe I'm just wasting my time reading these stories that has nothing to do with me building my business and setting up a great future for myself. So I hopped on the journey of reading nonfiction books. I would be reading business books and self-help books that I hear of its popularity and grandeur. Slowly, I was eliminating fiction, and I could see that I was getting more and more practical. It was like I didn't see myself as a fiction reader anymore. My mind was always consuming the quick practical tips, but my life was not getting any better. I was feeling negative and hopeless most of the time. Ideas were not as prevalent as before, and I started to lose interest in reading altogether. And truth be told, for me, when it came to self-help books, they all had the same quick tips that would totally leave my mind after a few weeks of reading. No residual motivation, no memory of what I've read a few days back. My life was not getting any more productive. If anything, I remember that my mind was much more productive when my only focus was on fiction. Reading nonfiction for me was like distilling down a story to one final message of it and giving you just that. Like memorizing something without actually understanding or expanding your perspective on it. It's like giving you the bland answer without you thinking at all about the question. Some self-help books are exactly like the quick tips you hear in Instagram reels. Did you change your life by watching those shorts or reels? Or did you just think that your life is changing? Did your identity change by watching someone telling you that you need to read more, or just kept on feeling good about the fact that you're consuming these useful tips? Did you actually go through the experience of living a better life or embracing a courageous character? To be completely honest here, self-help books might be rotting your brain. It's not only the quick burst of social media that can cause your mind to stagnate. The brain rot can also happen by the quick, easy-to-grasp to-dos that the book is trying to sell you. The truth is, it's so easy to read a nonfiction and follow up on what it's saying, but it's not so easy to retain the information given in the fiction books. Go read Dostoevsky and you come to understand what it means to retain a thought for a long time. then you get to face the fact that your attention needs an awful lot of training. Because after a few pages in, you can't remember who was who. So if you want to train your attention span, go grab a classical book and challenge your mind to stay on track. Because then you know that you can't just pretend that you're reading. You actually need to pay close attention, otherwise you'll be lost 2 pages in. And I think there's this misconception that fiction is not applicable to reality. But what if I told you that fiction is more real than nonfiction? Because when you're reading nonfiction, even if you finally succeed to force your mind to do what it's instructing you to do, your mind will be just repeating the same boring steps that some successful person took to achieve their goals. And in the process, you'll be eroding your passion by submitting your mind to just that. Instead of consuming that easy to grasp tip, we must be reading the stories of their lives and figure out how they built the character that was capable of achieving greatness. Because otherwise we're just looking at the fruits and forgetting that it comes from a tree. Just like a boring robot that has been given some instructions and is unthinkingly carrying them out. Slowly, you'll feel like your life lacks meaning and creativity. You'll feel like you're just a cog in the system, going through the motion of productive routines that you've been informed is going to make you successful. But if you read the stories of tragedies that occur to a fictional character with extraordinary and unearthly personality traits, then you've been given a chance at novelty. Now your learning and understanding becomes inevitable and effortless because you are putting yourself in the shoes of the character you've been reading, and you're taking on the hues of their identities. You're imagining yourself having that character, and that will plant extraordinary ideas in your mind. And it's not like self-help books that are all about telling you what to do, only focusing on the action. Self-help books are telling you to do something that you don't see in your character. You don't focus on making your identity and belief system grow. Rather, you're narrowing your focus on baseless actions. But when you read fiction, your brain will be brimming with a wide range of possibilities. You go outside the normal way of thinking and allow extraordinary ideas to stream into your intellectual territory. You go through the trials and tribulations that the character is going through, and you are gaining those experiences as if you're going through it yourself. You are gaining valuable lessons with no cost or waste of energy. There are also so many more benefits that it can give you, like expanding your lexicon. If you pick up a classical fiction, or even modern fiction for that matter, you will be flooded with a broad stream of vocabulary. It contains a lot of descriptions of so many things that we don't normally think about. And what you need to understand is this: if you don't have the vocabulary, you don't have the capacity to come up with the thoughts and ideas related to it. And without the capacity to generate the thought, you're not able to execute. So reading nonfiction, especially classics, is the best way to enhance your thinking and gain wisdom and knowledge. There's also another benefit that you'll get by reading fiction, and it's problem solving. You go through the life experiences that you might never face in real life. When you put yourself in the shoes of the character, it helps you become a better problem solver in real life as well. Because all we do in life is imagining how a certain situation will pan out in the future, something that is going to happen to our future self. So it's critical to develop the capacity to conjure yourself to be in that situation and consider all the options available for you to move towards your goal. So by reading fiction, you're making yourself even more creative because you're coming across all sorts of situations and ideas, and your brain is unconsciously searching for the solution. And we all know that creativity is the basis of problem solving. Another benefit that you will get by reading fiction is becoming a compassionate person, because now you will not underestimate the pain and suffering of others. Therefore, it makes you a kinder individual. And the ability to understand a wide range of emotions is also crucial for handling your own emotional state. Which brings me to the next benefit of reading fiction, and it's increasing your emotional intelligence. Next time you're stuck in a bad situation and feel a bit stressed, you remember that all the great heroes of stories that you've read have also gone through similar circumstances, so you can regulate your emotional reaction and take on their identity to move into the chaos with determination. And you don't panic because you've already been there mentally. And there was a study that showed a similar result. It's been found that when you're reading about an activity, the part of your brain that activates while doing the activity also lights up. For example, when you're reading about a character running, the part of your brain that lights up during running also activates. And I can see it ring true for myself. I remember reading the book What I Talk About When I Talk About Running by Haruki Murakami, and for some reason, my running after that became so much easier. So by reading fiction, you're actually building brain muscles. And I'm probably gonna receive some hate comments for saying this, but please never read anything trashy. For example, I hate romance genre because it doesn't add anything to my knowledge. Never pick up an easy modern trashy fiction, because books have such an immense power to shape you. Choose your books wisely. And remember, you become what you read.